have you with us this morning. If you're visiting with us, we're glad to have you. Come back anytime that you can. So, and hi to the folks in the parking lot. We don't want to forget you all either. So it's good to see everybody here today on this special occasion, God and Country Day. We've been trying to have this for what, 4 months or something like that. So we're finally getting to have it today. So I just want to take it's not part of the program or anything, but I personally want to thank all you veterans and those people who are currently serving our great country today. I know our country has a lot of problems, but it's still the greatest country on the face of the earth to live in, I believe.
Amen.
And I appreciate everybody that's served. My dad served, my uncle served, and I've got a son-in-law that's serving right now. So I do appreciate each and every one of you for serving this great, great country. Because it's people like you and, of course, the Lord who has made this country what it is today. So it is good to see all of you out here today. So without me rambling on, before we get started, prayer request a little bit. Ruby wanted to mention about Tater's mother-in-law. She's in need of prayer. She's going to have surgery, right? She's going to have no surgery. Okay. 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 And then remember David Taylor, I understand that he has COVID. He's recovering, right? But he's still got a long way to go from what I hear. So remember those. I've got a coworker named Cindy Lee. Her and her husband's been tested positive for the virus. Don't worry, I've not been around her in weeks. So you know, we work from home a lot now. So, but she did ask for prayer. So she's got some other health issues going on with her too. So she's obviously a little worried. Is there anybody else that we need to mention this morning?
Helen Eagle-Eye, she had broken her arm and was down with her daughter, and then they think she might have had a stroke. She's back home now, but she just needs to gain more strength.
Okay, you said Helen Eagle-Eye, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
yep.
Remember that one.
And also Dean Grindstaff and his daughter Amy, they both have COVID, and Amy just got out of the hospital.
Yeah.
So, but they're still suffering from some effects of it, so they need to.
All right, remember those folks. Anybody else? That's right, Lawrence Boone passed away. So remember that family. Remember Edith and Kim, of course. Anybody else? Well, if not, at this time I'm going to recognize Brother Howard. So he's going to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Before we pledge allegiance, let me remind you a little bit about this rag right here.
Amen.
A friend of mine, Sonny Martyr, some of you may remember, he was ex-prisoner of war in World War II. They were raising the flag down in Elizabeth. Huge big flag. Some of you may remember it on a train PSU had down there. And while I had it down trying to get it hooked up, it was like a really big church. Somebody stepped on it. Somebody stepped on him and said, "You're walking on the flag." Sonny Martin says, "Look, well, that's laying on the ground, it's a rag. When we put it in the air, it becomes a flag." So, here's the way I feel about this flag. The American flag is recognized as a symbol of freedom the whole world over. Symbol of peace. Because of those men and women, living and dead, who gave a portion of their life to honor and protect the cause for which it stands. These colors don't run. I have fought in every battle, in every war for over 200 years. I was at Valley Forge. I led my troops to World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and everywhere human freedom was threatened, I was there. I have I'm proudly thrown from the highest building. At half mast for our fallen heroes. I have slipped the bonds of earth and stand watch over the uncharted frontiers of faith from my vantage point on the moon. I have been burned, torn, and trampled in the streets of countries I've helped set free. Yes, and even in my own country, I have been dishonored by a few. But I am proud. I have borne silent witness to all of America's finest hours. But my finest hour is yet to come, when I am torn into strips and used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle. And yet, when I am folded and placed in the trembling arms of a grieving parent at the grave of their fallen son or daughter, I am proud. Would you please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance to our country's flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I remind you of a small portion of that pledge. One nation under God, there is no power.
Amen.
And when we would cease to be one nation under God, then we'll no longer be a free nation. God save you.
Thank you, Brother Hurt. All right, we'd like to recognize all our veterans or active duty. If you're active duty, you can also stand. But if you're a veteran, would you please stand? All right, let's give you a applause. Thank you all. You may be seated. All right, Brother Hart, it's your turn again.
What if I get it first? Gotta put it all together first. All right, hallelujah.
room.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I say your name. Do solemnly swear. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. And to bear true faith. And allegiance to the same. That I will obey. The orders of. The President of the United States. And the orders of. Those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn, when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and born with their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
of the world. Only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Very touching video. I don't know about those reunions when those soldiers come home and their kids see them, you know, that's hard to watch, isn't it? But we're thankful that they're able to come home and see their kids again. So anyway, at this time, I'm going to introduce you to Lieutenant Colonel Dena Shoemaker. So she's our special speaker this morning, and she's one of us. So please come on up.
Thank you and good morning. I kind of think I'll be disappointing after seeing that, but I was asked to share my military experience with you this morning, and it's a privilege and an honor. My military service started with ROTC. And my roommate wanted to take a rappelling course, and that's sliding down a rope off of a mountain or a building or a tower. And she didn't want to do it alone, so I told her I'd go and take it with her. And that's where I found out about ROTC basic training. And ROTC basic training was where you could go through basic training for 6 weeks and experience the military life and see if you liked it. And if you did, you could join the ROTC program at college. And if you didn't, then you just had an exciting summer job. And so I had open heart surgery a couple of times, so my instructors didn't think that I would qualify even to go. And so they sent me for my physical, and they passed me. So I got to go to ROTC Advanced Camp at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And there, as soon as the bus arrived, the drill sergeants come out of the building, started yelling and screaming at us. And I went on the buddy system with a friend of mine's sister. And she was a bit younger than me, but so she didn't really know what was going on. But they were yelling and screaming, and her eyes kept getting bigger and bigger. And the bigger they got, the more I wanted to laugh. And, you know, you can't laugh at a time like that because those drill sergeants will just tear you up. So anyway, we got through the in-processing and everything, and we learned how to be soldiers. They gave us a uniform like Howard's got on. We not quite like that, but yeah, they gave us a uniform that would clothe us while we were in the trenches. And then they gave us equipment also that would allow us to survive in any environment. And so then I returned after that. I returned to the college, and I joined the ROTC program. And then in the summer of '79, I went to ROTC Advanced Camp. And that's where you learn a little bit more leadership skills. And they were kicking girls out for having the cramps. And I had open heart surgery twice, so you know, I was just expecting them to come up when they were kicking girls out for having the cramps. I just expected them to come up and kick me out, but they didn't. So I went through that, And my dad had a heart attack right about the 1st of November, 2nd of November, July. And so I was going to go home to see him. And we had the 4th of July weekend coming up, which was a 4-day weekend. And so they said, well, go this time, and then you won't miss any training, and you won't get recycled or anything. And so I told Mom to get me an appointment to get my hair cut. And so I got home, and Dad was doing better, and I went to get my hair cut, and the lady heard the word Army, because she cut it. I had about an inch of hair all over. And so, but it ended up being really great, because I could wash it when we come in at night and get all the mud and dirt out of it, and then get up in the next morning and kind of wash it, and it'd be dry in just a minute or two. So that ended up being a good thing. So when I got back to Fort Riley, though, I was commander for a day. We got to experience all kinds of different leadership positions, from platoon leader, from squad leader to platoon leader to commander. And so I was the commander of the unit for the day. And it was in Kansas, and it was in the summertime. What do you think happened? We had a tornado. So thank the Lord, it jumped us. We were on the range when it happened, and so we got everybody back to the barracks and everything, and it jumped. At Fort Riley, there's a Custer Hill, which is up here, and our base was down here. And so it just kind of jumped over that, from that hill down over us and on out of the way. So then that same summer, I attended Air Assault School, which is jumping out of a helicopter on a rope. And so the first day, we had to run an obstacle course. And the second obstacle, I fell 11 feet flat on my back. And so I'm just laying there, and the drill sergeant in charge comes by and says, "Is she okay? If she's not, send her home." I said, "I'm fine, just let me lay here a minute." And so anyway, I finished the course, even redoing that obstacle, and got down to the break area. And the next thing we had to do was do a 2-mile run. Well, I'm here to tell you, I wasn't up for no 2-mile run. But as we were running, my fellow soldiers did what most fellow soldiers did. They picked me up and carried me so I could make it. But then we had to rappel out of a helicopter. And so we were rappelling, and 2 of us girls came up to go out of the helicopter at the same time, because you have 2 people go out. And there was a master belay person that was guiding it all to make sure it was safe and everything. And so us 2 girls came up, and he's going, and we were both ROTC. And he said, "Oh, crap." And so he told us to go, and we both did near perfect rappels. We looked over at the helicopter next to us. 2 guys had gone out at the same time. They got so tangled up, they had to land the helicopter to get them untangled. So, of course, the rappel master had to apologize to us. And then the last day of that training, we had a 10-mile road march, and it was timed. And so we put our packs on, and they were about 40-pound packs. And when we had taken them off for our rappelling, because it was hard to set your brake hand with the frame on. So that last night before we put it back on, and when I did, that frame come right across the bruise I had from the fall on my lower back. I said, it's going to be a long 10 miles, because every step I would take, that pack would come down and hit that bruise. Well, we had 2 hours and 20 minutes to make 10 miles, and I made it with about 30 seconds to spare, but I made it. So then I received my commission in May of '80 into the regular Army, and I went to Fort Bliss, Texas for the Air Defense Officer Basic Course and the Hawk missile system, which was a short-range missile system that shot down airplanes. And so we had foreign foreign students in all of our classes. And some of them were good and some of them weren't so good. But in our hawk course, we had some officers from Taiwan. And when the officer acquired the target and the operators locked on it and everything, and you evaluated it and made sure it was the enemy, then you would say shoot, look, and shoot. You would shoot, look to see if you hit the target, and if you didn't, shoot again. So shoot, look, shoot. And so the Taiwan officers, they'd get really, really excited, and they go, looky, shoot, looky, looky, shoot, looky. And so they were just a fun group of guys. And so we really enjoyed having them in there. And then I went to Fort Riley, Kansas, where I served as a maintenance platoon leader, an assault platoon leader, and assistant S3. Now, I grew up in Arkansas, kind of poor. Well, we were poor. And here I am, a brand new second lieutenant, and they're having me sign for millions of dollars worth of equipment. So I had to learn real quick how to do an inventory. And they taught us some of that in school, but when you know you're signing for millions of dollars worth of equipment, you want to make sure you get it right. So I had to do that, and then I learned to make a decision. And if something's wrong, you can be sure that somebody's going to quickly tell you that you made the wrong decision and what you should have done. And so we had an outhouse on our tax site up on Custer Hill. And there was from 8 to 240 people a day using those facilities. There was only one. And so it really stunk, especially in the summertime. And so I wanted something done about it, and everybody kept giving me the runaround. You know, oh, it's just second lieutenant, who's that? Well, I shut it down. So because that was the only facility on the site, it shut down the site. And so then I got lots of help and lots of people to tell me what I should have done. But we got some stuff put in it and made it a lot cleaner and smelled a lot better. And then one day we had a bunch of helicopter pilots come, and we gave them a tour. And they were asking about, you see us on their scope. You cannot shoot us. And I'm like, look, come in the van and let me show you what you look like. And so what they looked like on the scope was just a little dash, just a little blip on the scope. And that's all. And that's the same way the enemy looked. So the only way we could tell the difference was if they were using their identification system, which all American planes have. And so that convinced them that they needed to use their identification system, which a lot of pilots wouldn't do. So then I went from Fort Riley, Kansas to Baumholder, Germany, where I again served as a maintenance platoon leader. And maintenance platoon leader had the smarter people, because they were technicians. They had to be able to read manuals on how to fix things and how it worked. And so they tended to be your smarter, more comical people too, sometimes. And so they were, especially for lieutenants, they were always making fun of them. And my particular ones like to turn my bar sideways on my hat. So I'd grab my hat up and take off out the door. And somebody'd say, don't you even know how to get dressed? And I'm like, what? And so there would be my bar sideways. And one day I did it. I took off out the door. They said the general was on site. And I took off outside. And there was my bar crooked, but I just happened right before I put it on to see it. So I fixed it, went and met the general and walked him around and come back. And I said, don't you guys ever do that again. I said, that general went, up one side of me and down the other. He didn't really, because I fixed it, but I made them sweat it for a little while. But anyway, while I was in Germany, we had to keep a high readiness rate and be ready to go at any time. And so there was always someone on duty, and we would have tactical evaluations where we had to practice what we would do in wartime. And when it would start, we'd get a call at 4 o'clock in the morning from our higher headquarters and say, war, And we would have to verify the message and then recall everybody we'd have to load up everything because our job was to move. Whatever happened, we moved someplace. And so we would have to load everything up and then get ready and go. And then get there and set up all of our equipment and be ready to shoot missiles downrange. Well, they evaluated every step of that. And then once we told them we were ready, then they would check all of our equipment to make sure that we could do what we said we could do. And we had a certain amount of time. We had 8 hours, minus the time that they would stop us to check all of our equipment and everything, to get that done. Well, I was the only one in our unit, because I'm sure the guys just messed up on purpose, that would do the message right, would respond properly. And so I always ended up being on duty the night before so that I would receive the message and act accordingly. So that ended up making for like a 36-hour day. Well, then I was the adjutant for a while at the battalion level. And there I had the medics and all the personnel folks. And so when it came time to get flu shots, since the medic belonged to me, I'd line up everybody and say, okay, here we go. And I'd lead them through to get their flu shots. And so then I went back to Fort Bliss, Texas, where I went to the advanced course and then stayed there to be the instructor for the Patriot missile system. And if you want to know what that looks like, I left a picture back there on that back table. And so I had about 20 instructors and about 10 or so more military people. And we taught the operators and the mechanics how to operate and fix that equipment. And like I said, we had foreign students in all of our classes. And so we had some Mideastern VIPs wanting to go through our site and just get a tour. But they didn't want me to be